Maurice Carney, the International Rescue Committee calls this the worst conflict since World War II. You've written extensively about the involvement of multinational corporations in fueling the unrest. Can you talk about this?
Certainly. When you look at the Congo, you have to look at the corporate influence on everything that takes place in the Congo. When you look at the situation as it currently is, people usually talk about rape occurring at horrendous scales. However, there are basically two types of rape taking place in the Congo. One is the rape of the women and children, and the other is the rape of the land, the natural resources. And the Congo has tremendous natural resources. We're talking about 30% of the world's reserves of cobalt, 10% of the world's reserve of copper, 80% of the world's reserve of coltan. And these multinational corporations are profiting at enormous rates while the Congolese people are suffering tremendously.
Which companies?
Well, there are a number of companies. From 2001 to 2003, the United Nations did a report on the illegal exploitation of the natural resources of the Congo. There are a number of American companies. We have Cabot Corporation, for example, out of Boston, Massachusetts, that was named in that report. Cabot, the former CEO of Cabot Corporation is Samuel Bodman, current Secretary of Energy in the Bush administration. We have the OM Group out of Cleveland, Ohio, is another company, American company named in the report. We also have Freeport-McMoRan, who acquired mining rights from Phelps Dodge out of Phoenix, Arizona, who've been involved in copper exploitation in the Congo. And Global Witness said that copper mines, the Tenke-Funguimori mine that Freeport-McMoRan has, represents one of the richest deposits of copper in the world. However, the Congolese government and the Congolese people are not benefiting from the contracts that were established that provided Freeport-McMoRan with those resources. We have a number of Canadian companies. Almost every Canadian Prime Minister since Pierre Trudeau has been involved in the mining company in the Congo. We're talking about Joe Clark, Brian Mulroney, Jean Chrétien, all of them profiting from the natural resources of the Congo while the Congolese people suffer. The reports from the Congolese government state that 80% of the population live on 30 cents or less a day, while you have billions of dollars going out the back door and into the pockets of mining companies.
Maurice Carney, you write how the $500 million investment in assuring, well, then-President Kabila's ascendancy to power was the beginning of the payoff for the West's investment. It is for this reason, you say, that many Congolese surmise Kabila was summoned to Washington in October 2007 because he may have strayed from the game plan when he signed a $5 billion deal with China. Even as he ventured there, you say, to Washington, he first had to stop in Phoenix, Arizona to visit Tim Snyder, recently replaced by Richard Adkerson, CEO of Freeport-McMoRan Copper and Gold. Talk more about this relationship. And yes, corporations are there, but what exactly are they doing? Who are they making these deals with?
Well, they're making these deals with the Kabila government. In fact, Kabila was put in place by the Western powers because he was a pliant leader. He was going to facilitate access to Congo's vast geostrategic resources. So that's the reason why Kabila, the main reason why Kabila was put in power. The International Crisis Group had done a study in 2007 which stated as much, where it documented that Western ambassadors were celebrating that Kabila won the elections because they now knew that they would have the legitimate access to the natural resources of the Congo.
We're talking to Maurice Carney, co-founder and executive director of Friends of the Congo, and Nita Evele, co-chair of Congo Global Action. Nita, how aware are people on the ground of these large multinational corporations and their relationship to what's happening?
Oh, the country knows about all that. We see, since Kabila is in power, all the multinational are there thriving. The Congolese people know about all the contract reviewing commission. We had one in 2006 by Lutundula, who never been publicized to the population, but it was leaked to the internet, and everybody saw how all those companies made deal with Kabila to plant other countries. They sold Miba, for example. Miba is the diamond company in the Kasai for only $14 million, while the company was making 100 times more than that. So the country knows about what's going on, and usually the people in the Congo used to do diamond like artisanal miners. But since those companies bought all those lands, they cannot mine those lands anymore. Some villages were sold to the Russian, for example, and the people were kicked out of their lands. So it's a big mess, big mess, and people know about that. There are rivers who were sold to multinational companies, and people cannot go have water to drink. So it's something that people know about, and people are talking about it, and everybody knows how those companies are benefiting, and the Kabila's people are benefiting, and the country and the population are getting poor and poor every single day.
Maurice Carney, the role of the international financial institutions like the World Bank.
Yes, there's really 4 entities that involved in keeping the Congo dependent. And one of those entities, international financial institutions, the multilateral institutions such as the IMF and the World Bank. In fact, Antonio Guterres had given an interview earlier in January to the Financial Times where it stated that the International Monetary Fund had set up financial rules that pretty much restrict the Congolese government. That is to say, prevented the Congolese government from having the necessary resources to pay its soldiers. And as a result of the government not having the resources to pay its soldiers, the soldiers then feast on the population through by stealing, by raping. So you see how the constriction that's put on the government by the international financial institutions feed the violence that is there in the Congo. In addition to that, you have the World Bank, for example, which went into the Congo much in the fashion as Naomi Klein describes in her Disaster Capitalism. They went in after the conflict in 2002, established the mining laws, and the mining laws provided the legal framework for the multinational corporations to come in and establish contracts with the government. Now, even though the mining laws were in place and they required transparency and adherence to the OECD laws, the mining companies came in and the contracts were opaque, they weren't transparent, and World Bank studies clearly document this, but they refused to publish those studies which demonstrate how the mining contracts that's been established by multinational corporations are actually odious contracts and absolutely do not serve the interests of the Congolese people, but serve the interest of investors from the West.
Maurice Carney, can you talk about the foreign fighters? It's also often described as a civil war, and yet the fighters from Uganda and Rwanda, what role do they play?
Right, the civil war is a misnomer. Congo has been invaded twice. First in 1996, primarily by Rwanda and Uganda, when they installed Kabila in power, and they did this with the backing of the United States. They could not have invaded the Congo without the backing of the United States, as Cynthia McKinney documented in her congressional hearing in 2001. Then when Kabila did not serve the interests of the Rwandans and the Ugandans and the U.S., then he was gotten rid of. He was assassinated in January 16, 2001. The Rwandans and Ugandans then invaded the Congo a second time in 1998. And it was this second invasion that the study from the IRC has been documented, where 5.4 million Congolese have died. 50% of those Congolese are less than 5 years old. The main cause of death is not so much violent conflict, but from treatable diseases such as diarrhea and pneumonia, all diseases that can be treated. So you have basically Rwanda and Uganda playing a destructive role in the Congo. When they established peace deals to get to be removed from the Congo, they left proxy forces in the Congo who were controlling areas that were endowed with gold and tin and diamonds. So even though the Rwandans and Ugandans backed out, and even though they profited tremendously while they were in the Congo with their own forces, they left proxy forces in the Congo. And this started in the Clinton administration and extended into the Bush administration. And if you recall, Amy, during this time, they were saying that Rwanda...
We have 10 seconds, Maurice.
Okay, Kagame of Rwanda, Museveni of Uganda were the future leaders of Africa. And one thing they all had in common is that they've invaded other African countries.
I'm going to leave it there right now, but we will come back because this is a critical discussion, the worst conflict since World War II. Maurice Carney, co-founder and executive director of Friends of the Congo, and Nita Evele, co-chair of Congo Global Action. That does it for this broadcast. Democracy Now! Produced by Mike Burke,